Now at 5, detectives arrest a suspect in connection with last month's murder on Spokane South Hill. New court documents detail a complex web of business dealings and angry business partners that could be connected to Doug Carlile's execution.
KREM 2 News at 5 starts now.
Police have arrested a suspect in connection with last month's high-profile South Hill murder. Good evening, everyone. I'm Jane McCarthy.
Thanks for being with us. I'm Randy Shaw. We broke the story first today on Twitter this morning. Doug Carlile, you remember, was gunned down in the kitchen of his own South Hill home. That happened in December. Nearly a month later, police say they've got the shooter in custody. He's identified as 50-year-old Timothy Suko. He was arrested for first-degree murder, but court documents show this case may go way beyond his involvement.
Because it's so complicated, we've had a team of reporters poring over those court documents today to create a clear picture for you. KREM 2's Othello Richards went to Suko's workplace and we'll have more on how it plays into the case. And this isn't his first brush with the law. KREM 2's Sean Chitness dug into Suko's criminal history and will join us in a minute. Also, court documents indicate Carlile's murder could be tied to some of his business dealings in North Dakota.
KREM 2's Whitney Ward and Mike Gonzalez will bring us more on that in a minute. First, we start with Haley Gunther, who was at Suko's court appearance today and has more on how detectives tracked him down.
Randy and Jane, good evening. Well, this has been described as an execution-style murder. Doug Carlile was killed in his own kitchen just a few minutes after he and his wife got home from church. And tonight, detectives have the man they say is responsible in custody, and court documents detail all of the evidence they have against him.
Timothy Eugene Suko, November 18th, 1963.
For a man accused of first-degree murder facing life behind bars, he sure seemed calm in court today.
SPD major crimes detectives have been relentless in their investigation of this incident.
And court records detail just that. Detectives recovered a leather glove on a gate in the Carlile's yard. The Washington State Patrol Crime Lab found Suko's DNA inside. But perhaps even more incriminating than that, detectives struck gold when they searched Suko's Tahoe. Court records show inside, Detective Jeff Barrington located a list which can be described as an operations plan. That list included a glove with a question mark, a trench coat, 2 boots, a reminder to wipe tools down, and to practice with a pistol. Also inside that Tahoe, a mask matching the one Doug Carlile's wife, Alberta, says the killer wore the night of the murder. And today, Alberta is speaking out for the first time. She came face to face with the killer and says she knows her husband died doing everything he could to protect her.
He died for me. He saved me by attacking that man. I know that's what happened. So he's a hero. He's a hero.
Now, Randy and Jane, it is important to note because the entire Carlile family was threatened. We are not going to show Alberta's face. Detectives are saying more arrests are possible. I am live here at Detective Headquarters tonight. Haley Gunther, KREM 2 News.
Well, as we continue to follow a trail of evidence, it led us to an asbestos and lead removal company in the Spokane Valley. Timothy Suko worked for IRS Environmental.
That's where detectives tracked down a white van they believe matched the suspect's vehicle. KREM 2's Othello Richards is live with reaction from the business about today's developments. Othello?
A company representative where Timothy Suko works tells me it's been a tough day coming to grips with the recent developments in this case. Outside IRS Environmental in Spokane Valley sits a white 95 Chevy van with a black strip on its side for sale. In the days following the murder of Douglas Carlile, detectives spent looking for this similar-looking van, but longer in length. A surveillance camera caught it leaving the South Hill neighborhood. According to court documents, investigators checked Department of Licensing records and found IRS Environmental listed as owning a 95 Chevrolet extended van. Documents say undercover officers watched the business from a distance and saw a white van with a black stripe on the vehicle. Detectives believed it matched the suspect vehicle. An IRS businessman tells us murder suspect Timothy Suko has worked for the asbestos and lead removal company for 9 years, and he has worked hard there. Court documents say Suko routinely had access to company vehicles, but at a news conference today, police would not reveal to us whether he was in the van the night of the murder. Only that investigators found a glove near the scene with Suko's DNA on it. An IRS environmental businessman tells us he and other employees feel devastated about the arrest. Their hearts go out to the victim's family, and the company is cooperating with investigators. Spokane police tell us they continue to hold the suspect van as part of the ongoing investigation. The Spokane police chief would not tell us today yet whether or not detectives have gone through that van for possible evidence, only that this is an ongoing investigation. Reporting live, Othello Richards, KREM 2 News.
Now, we've obtained Suko's criminal record, or rap sheet. He was arrested twice for burglaries back in the 1980s.
The court documents also reveal his troubled past with mental illness. KREM 2's Sean Chitness is live tonight with more on what we've learned about the suspect. Sean?
Randy and Jane, we requested the court documents related to those two burglaries and got more than 150 pages. They reveal that these two crimes helped the state to learn about Timothy Suko's mental health issues at the same time. Today, Timothy Suko appeared in court without showing any of the dangerous behavior court documents report in his path. The only other cases in Spokane County for Suko besides this investigation are two burglaries. The first in April of 1982 at a restaurant. Records say he had a deranged state of mind. A few months later, he burglarized a home. Again, documents note a deranged state of mind. The state later diagnosed him with a mental illness. Reports showed a history of devil-worshipping and self-destructive behavior. In May of 1984, he was admitted to Eastern State Hospital. He later spent time in other hospitals in Minnesota, Kansas, and California. He was released in 1989. And after he was released in 1989, he spent the next several years requesting all of these documents so that he could make a case about his time in jail as well as his mental health in order to argue against those initial crimes and say that he wasn't a competent adult at the time. Reporting live, Sean Chitness, KREM 2 News.
Other court documents show that the shooting victim had many business dealings connected to a North Dakota oil industry, including one man with a long criminal history.
KREM 2's Whitney Ward joins us now with more on threats allegedly made to Carlisle from a business partner. Whitney?
Randy, Jane, police say about 2 years ago, James Henriksen helped convince Carlisle to invest in two business ventures in North Dakota, a trucking company and an oil field development company. But almost immediately, those projects began to struggle financially, with Henriksen claiming Carlisle ended up owing him nearly $2 million.
It was a multi-million-dollar project to purchase mineral rights on more than 600 acres in northern North Dakota. But it wasn't long before several investors wanted out, and court documents show Carlisle was trying to get money to pay off their trucking business and sign it over to James Henriksen. Currently living in North Dakota, I found Henriksen has a lengthy criminal history, including theft, fraud, and accusations of a violent rape. Police say Henriksen was furious about being bought out, and one of Carlisle's sons told authorities he showed up at his work one day last summer demanding $400,000, saying they were all in business with some very bad people. He also says Henriksen said if he didn't pay up, something bad would happen to the family. The son says he was extremely concerned over those threats and believed Henriksen had the ability to harm him. Shortly before he died, Carlisle's sons say he told them, "If I disappear or wake up with bullets in my back, promise you'll let everyone know James Henriksen did it."
Now, it's also important to note police have tied Henriksen to the shooting suspect now in custody here in Spokane. His phone number was found in Suko's cell phone. Court documents also show that Henriksen is considered a suspect in another man's disappearance and possible death. Casey Clark was Henriksen's operations manager in North Dakota, who's now been missing for 2 years. No one's ever been arrested in that case. In the newsroom tonight, Whitney Ward, KREM 2 News.
And Doug Carlisle's business partner in the oil field development company, James Henriksen, was contacted just hours after Carlisle was shot to death in his South Hill home.
Henriksen told police that he already knew about Carlisle's death through a text message from a business associate. KREM 2's Mike Gonzalez has more on what Henriksen told police that night.
Randy and Jane, James Henriksen was contacted by Spokane police just 3 hours after that deadly shooting. Henriksen claimed he and Carlisle did in fact have an oil lease together, but he had nothing to do with his murder. According to court records, it was 10:09 on December 15th of last year when a Spokane police detective called James Henriksen, who wouldn't give the detective his address when initially asked. Henriksen finally gave in and then told the detective he was aware that Carlisle had been shot to death. A man named Tim Scott had texted him the news. Scott is a businessman who introduced Carlisle to Henriksen years ago and also knows Carlisle's wife. Henriksen denied any involvement in the shooting or ever threatening Carlisle. Henriksen said Carlisle does not pay the money that he owes people, and he was frustrated by this. He did admit to being very angry with Doug Carlisle because he was owed nearly $2 million by his partner. Henriksen also denied having business problems in North Dakota. And we do want to emphasize that Henriksen has not been identified by police as a suspect or even a person of interest in the murder of Doug Carlisle. In the newsroom, I'm Mike Gonzalez, KREM 2 News.
The fastest way to get breaking news is the KREM 2 mobile app or KREM.com. You can track the latest on Douglas Carlisle and Timothy Suko right here anytime. The app is free in your market. We broke this story on Twitter this morning. We've started the hashtag Doug Carlisle Murder so you can quickly find new information. For more, just follow @KREM2 on Twitter. To breaking news now in Coeur d'Alene, where emergency crews are on the scene of a construction accident. We're told a worker fell at an apartment complex under construction at Grand Mill Lane and Celtice Way. We're told the victim's injuries are severe. Police are warning there are a lot of emergency crews in the area now, so steer clear if you can.
Turning to the weather right now, boy, it felt like spring out there today. Tom Sherry now with the latest on that.
It really did. When the wind wasn't blowing and the sun was out, gosh, felt like March weather. Take a look at the current temperature, 44 right now in Spokane. Again, keep in mind the average high is 34, so we're 10 degrees on the plus side. And my goodness, look at Moses Lake, 51 degrees. But once again, because of the calm conditions, we've got that air stagnation advisory back in effect. It starts early tomorrow morning and continues through Saturday morning, and as we get closer to the weekend, we'll look for deteriorating air quality, so we have to deal with that until we get another storm system headed our way. We may also have to deal with some patchy fog this morning, possibly causing some early morning slick roadways. Tomorrow will not be quite as warm as today, but still above average. We look for partly cloudy skies and a high of 40. I'll check your 7-day forecast coming up in a couple of minutes.
Still ahead tonight on KREM 2 News, New Jersey Governor Chris Christie gave his State of the State address today, but first he apologized again for the so-called Bridgegate scandal.
Also, a school shooting in New Mexico sent 2 students to the hospital. The suspect is just 12 years old.
Go to KREM.com for the latest weather and ski reports, brought to you by Lookout Pass.
You're watching KREM 2 News at 5 with Randy Shaw, Jane McCarthy, Tom Sherry Storm Tracker 2 forecast. Live from the KREM 2 Digital Media Center, this is KREM 2 News at 5.
Welcome back. We're following a middle school shooting out of New Mexico.
Police say a 12-year-old opened fire on 2 classmates this morning in a school gym. The target, a 14-year-old boy, was shot twice in the face. He's in critical condition tonight. A 13-year-old girl in serious condition. Officials say a teacher ended the shooting by asking the suspect to finally put down the weapon. New Jersey Governor Chris Christie gave his State of the State address today, starting out with another apology for the so-called Bridgegate scandal.
Thank you. I'm the governor, and I'm ultimately responsible for all that happens on my watch, both good and bad.
The governor's office currently under federal investigation. So far, there's been no direct connection to the governor. The outcome could affect the governor's second term, maybe a possible run for national office.
Still to come on KREM 2 News, a high-speed chase ends with the suspects crashing in downtown Spokane.
But not before they tossed out a couple of weapons out the window on a busy Spokane sidewalk.
And now, the KREM 2 News Storm Tracker 2 forecast with Tom Sherry.
I don't remember a lot of Januaries like this, but we'll take it.
Well, we typically get a January thaw, but not a January spring.
Yeah.
Just crazy. You were talking about in your car thermometer said
52.
52 degrees. And we had an official high at the airport of 45.
Are our plants going to get tricked?
Yeah, you know, that's a possibility, and we don't want that to happen because we know a freeze is coming, but we hope that doesn't happen. In the meantime, we will enjoy this, and I know some folks are pining for some precipitation. You know, the mountains, I should point this out. Lookout Pass reported almost a foot of new snow Saturday night into Sunday, so when it does precipitate down at the lower elevations, we are getting pounded with snow up on the hills, so, you know, keep that in mind for some recreating. We've only got another couple of months to get up there and, you know, put on the skis and enjoy some of the great downhill skiing around the inland Northwest. And I don't want those resorts to suffer. I like them to stay healthy and in business because we have such a great selection of ski hills real close to Spokane and Coeur d'Alene. So the weather headlines, we pretty much covered that. Feels like spring. We'll look for temperatures a bit cooler this week, but still above average, and continued dry weather at least through the weekend. 41 now in the River City, 39 in the Lake City, 38 degrees in St. Mary's. We have 46 degrees in Dayton. Beautiful weather. Had an observation earlier today from Dayton and Walla Walla doing absolutely outstanding in those locations. And Quincy's at 45 degrees. Satellite and radar picture. Here we go. Once again, all the cloud cover and the storm track being forced well to the north of us. We go up about 24,000 feet in the atmosphere. And what do we see? The upper level winds. We call it the jet stream. And this is what directs our storms. Well, what direction is it taking our storms? Up to the north of us, up into the Gulf of Alaska, and then dropping them down into the eastern half of the country. And that's where we're seeing all of the stormy weather. It looks like that's going to continue. Take a look at your 7-day forecast. 40 degrees the expected high on Wednesday. 32 will be the overnight low this morning. Then we've got a little bit cooler weather. We're in the upper 30s Thursday through the weekend, and the lows get colder, which is what it's supposed to happen. Mid-20s maybe Saturday morning. And I should mention that almost every morning, starting tomorrow morning, we've got a pretty good chance we'll see some morning fog. And as we get more and more into the weekend, it might become more difficult to burn that off to enjoy the sunshine that we saw today. And of course, that air stagnation advisory in effect tomorrow through Saturday morning.
Again.
Yeah, again, yeah.
Thanks, Tom. Well, a couple of criminals on the run from police dumped their guns right on a busy downtown Spokane sidewalk.
Coming up after the break, you're going to hear from one witness who took action to make sure nobody got hurt.
A 12-year-old has opened fire in his middle school. There are casualties, and our Bob Orr will have the latest on this breaking story tonight on the CBS Evening News.
You're watching KREM 2 News at 5.
2 suspects are in custody tonight after leading police on a high-speed chase that ended in downtown Spokane.
At one point, they tossed a couple of guns right out the car window into a downtown sidewalk. They crashed their vehicle just a few blocks later. KREM 2's Taylor Vito talked with one witness who saw it all happen, and one of them took action.
A cab driver we spoke with was just parked downtown waiting to get a call when he saw a pistol get thrown out of the window of a car. He then got out and set a nearby traffic cone by it to make sure no one got close. Cab driver Jim Cottier was parked downtown at Wall and Main when he saw a brown SUV speed by at about 70 miles an hour.
As they hit the first light at Wall, I saw a black object come flying out of the car.
That black object, a gun. With dozens of people walking by, he took action.
The gun was laying there and no police officer had shown up yet. So there was a construction cone, so I set it over by the gun to keep people from either tripping over it or walking on it or whatever.
Police say the incident began with a report of shots fired on the 1800 block of West Gardner. A nearby officer spotted the suspects, who immediately attempted to drive off in the SUV. The chase continued through Main Street and downtown, the suspects running red lights and tossing another gun out the window. Construction worker Daniel J. Jones saw that.
Oh, it was literally, it landed right next to our dumpster wheel right there. I mean, it was feet away from him. The magazine landed inside the dumpster itself.
Yeah. The 2 suspects later crashed near Brown Street. But judging by the way they were driving, Jones just says he and his coworkers are happy they're still here to talk about it.
If he would have just messed up a tiny bit, he could have slammed into any of us.
Jones and his coworkers, of course, very lucky they weren't hit. Police say there are no other injuries to report either from that crash, the chase, or that shots fired call. In the newsroom tonight, Taylor Vito, KREM 2 News.
We'll take a break. We'll be right back. Working on several news stories tonight in the Doug Carlisle murder arrest, including what the neighbors of suspect Timothy Suko are saying about him. You're also going to hear from Doug Carlisle's widow for the first time since her husband was killed. Both those stories new tonight on KREM 2 News tonight at 6.
And Tom is here with a look ahead.
Yeah, we're talking about more spring-like weather conditions, dry conditions expected through Sunday. As you can see right there, temperatures will cool a little bit, but at the same time, we've still got temperatures above average. The average high is about 34 degrees this time of year. We're finally going to see overnight lows get cooler, though, starting Friday through the weekend.
All right, Tom, thank you very much.
That'll do it for us. Stay tuned for the CBS Evening News. Hope to see you back again at 6.